Hello. Today's Thursday. We're talking a little bit about weight today. So last Thursday we talked about fat burning hormones. So while it's just as important for us to be aware of fat burning hormones, we want to also be aware of the hormones that cause us to store fat. Okay, because there's this nice balance that happens there. So with our fat storing hormones, there's three of them. So there's not as many as our fat burning hormones, but it's insulin, estrogen, and cortisol. Okay. So it's important for us to understand how these function in the body. So regulating these hormones plays a really big role when it comes to not just with trying to lose weight, but just managing our health in general, because they impact lots of different functions. So when we do our Reset to Thrive program, we focus a lot on your body's ability to manage these hormones in a more efficient way. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why it's so successful. So let's talk a little bit more about them. So we'll start with insulin. Most of us know insulin's made by your pancreas, and its function is to lower blood sugar after your meals. So it'll cause the cells to absorb sugar as fuel, and it'll convert the rest to fat and cholesterol. So insulin works with IGF and glucagon to keep fuel constant in the blood. All right. So when IGF and glucagon go down, then insulin has to go up and vice versa. So it's like a seesaw. So in the presence of insulin, you're not going to burn fat. All right. Sugar triggers insulin, obviously, but it's not just sugar is in what you would think of, like the white powder stuff. It's just carbohydrates in general, and they're in everything. So when we have conversations around sugar and sugar consumption, and people say, well, I don't eat sugar, and you might not eat sugar directly as far as that white powdery substance, putting in your coffee or sprinkling on food, but it doesn't mean that you're not consuming it in a different form. Okay. So that's important to keep in mind. And because sugar triggers that insulin, and then large amounts of protein can trigger insulin too. So you want your proteins to be more lean. You're more the more lean and the more low fat the protein is, the more insulin that's going to be released. Okay. So, and then lastly, just eating in general triggers insulin. All right. So this is why we do, fewer meals without snacking. And that's really good advice. So it'll help improve a lot of functions that are trickled down from this insulin process. Okay, it'll help your body manage that a little bit better. Then we have estrogen. So with estrogen, that's responsible for our female characteristics, but men also have estrogen too. And it's a factor in our menstrual cycle and the changes in our uterus and breasts. So it provides like this fat layer around the female body, especially around the outer thighs. So that's one of the reasons why women tend to have more fat than men, because we have over 1,000 times the concentration of estrogen receptors that men have, right? So this is one of the reasons why fat management can be very different for women as it is for men, all right? And then the last one is cortisol. And this is a really important hormone. It's made by your adrenal glands, and it's activated by stress. And when I say stress, I mean stress of all kinds. It's not just emotional stress. It's not just physical stress. It's both, okay? It is an anti-inflammatory, and it releases sugar from your liver and your muscles into your blood as an instant fuel source. Okay, so think of it like this: if you're the running from the bear scenario that we use all the time. So if you see a bear and your instinct is to run from the bear, your body's not going to think, oh, well, let me try to find some extra resources. No, it needs that immediate fuel source. Okay. So that's what happens there when cortisol is released. So it doesn't matter, like I said, could be work stress, could be relationship stress, could be family, it doesn't matter. Or it could be physical stress of working out in the gym. So when you're working out, let's talk about that. When it's physical exercise, okay, you need that immediate fuel burn, right, to fuel your workout, okay, to achieve something. So we were made to be able to manage small amounts of that, okay, but not how we put it into this consistent all day affair in the body. Lots of times we are releasing the stress response all day long, and it may be for all different reasons throughout the day, but we're releasing it all day long. So that puts us in a difficult position if we're looking to heal, if we're looking to lose weight, if we have any health goals at all, or maybe if we just want to maintain our health. This is not going to be a good position to be in, because, you know, while cortisol is classified as a fat burner, it also has an indirect fat storing effect, where it turns your body muscle proteins into sugar fuel. So this forces insulin to deal with that excess sugar in the bloodstream, which can cause us to gain weight. Areas that'll be a particular issue in this situation is around weight around your midsection. Okay. So that's where a lot of times we'll hold this type of weight more so than anywhere else. So reducing our stress levels is really important if we want to heal, if we want to maintain, if we want to lose weight, any of those situations. So I use BrainTap. You know, sit for a second and try to identify some of your stress management techniques and what do you use. Maybe it's, you know, letting go of something so that it doesn't hold, you know, is this really worth holding on to? Is this worth getting worked up about? Or is this something that I need to release or want to release and let go of? And then when you have a legitimately stressful situation, how do you, I don't want to say come down from that, but, you know, essentially that's the case. How do you come down from that? How do you get yourself back into that parasympathetic state so that your body can function more effectively? So like I said, that's where the BrainTap for me comes in. I do, you know, you can do short sessions. If I've had a stressful morning before I eat lunch, I'll do a quick little session just to make sure, you know, breath work is great. We talked about saying grace before you eat. Don't eat when you're stressed out, because your digestion isn't functioning optimally. So all those things play a role. So when you understand these fat storing hormones, it makes sense why we would want to incorporate some of the lifestyle techniques that we talk about. It would make sense why we would want to change some of our dietary choices. You know, all of this stuff makes more sense. So this time is really just to help educate you in a way that will help the belief systems grow, why you're doing what you're doing, why it's worth the extra effort in the beginning. In the beginning of, you know, incorporating some of these changes or techniques are work, because it's new, it's different, it's out of the ordinary. But, you know, consistency carves canyons. So when you're consistently doing them, it becomes a no-brainer. Just like eating before was a no-brainer, now we're reprogramming and we're shifting and we're moving our skills a little bit. But, you know, those new lifestyle practices, they become no-brainers too when you stick with it. So keep up the good work. Keep looking for areas where you can tweak those situations to get out of that fat storing stage, okay, as much as possible. And your health will thank you, your body will thank you, your brain will thank you. All of these things will start to work out the more and more that you do it. So I would love to hear what you do. What do you find helpful to shift out of those stressful states? What practices do you find helpful when it comes to managing your insulin? When it comes to estrogen, you know, we want to eliminate any estrogen mimicking toxins, you know, plastic water bottles, things like that. We've talked about all this stuff a bunch of times. So what are some tips that you've learned along the way that you incorporate, that you find helpful in managing these fat storing hormones? So I'd love to hear from you guys too. That's all for now. I will see you all next week.